You're overreacting. You're too emotional. You're making this up. It didn't start with rage. It started with a look, a sigh, a cold silence after you spoke your truth. And slowly, you stopped speaking it. Not because it wasn't true, but because you were taught that your truth was inconvenient. If you've ever asked yourself, maybe I was too much. Maybe I made them act that way. This video is for you. Today, we're going to talk about why narcissists don't need to yell to control you, what gaslighting actually feels like inside your body, how emotional abuse can rewire your entire nervous system, and how to slowly, but powerfully, reclaim your ability to trust yourself again. If someone ever made you feel crazy for being hurt, for having boundaries, for simply feeling, you were not overreacting. You were being conditioned. Let's start there. Gaslighting isn't always screaming, name-calling, or slamming doors. Sometimes, it sounds like you're remembering it wrong. You're just being dramatic again. I never said that, you always twist things. It's not just manipulation. It's psychological disorientation. Gaslighting is when someone makes you doubt your own experiences, until you no longer trust your emotions, your memory, or your voice. It's not an accident. It's a tool. A tool used by people, often with traits of narcissistic personality disorder, to keep control without appearing abusive. Because if they can convince you that the pain you feel isn't real, they don't have to take responsibility for causing it. And slowly, your inner dialogue changes. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe it's my fault. Let's break down what emotional abuse examples can look like when it's not physical. You express a boundary, they go silent. You bring up something hurtful, they make it about you. You cry, they say, here we go again. You question something, they say, wow, you're so paranoid. The goal isn't to fix the conflict. It's to make you question whether there was a conflict in the first place. That's how the cycle continues. And how the abuse hides in plain sight. Gaslighting doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow erosion. A soft distortion. Like fog creeping into your clarity. Until you're standing in a storm, apologizing for bringing an umbrella. You weren't too sensitive. You were emotionally attuned, and they weaponized that. But awareness changes everything. When you name the pattern, you stop being part of it. And that's what we'll do next. Let's look at what gaslighting does to your body, your behavior, and your beliefs about yourself. Gaslighting isn't just mental. It's physical. It rewires your nervous system to prioritize survival over truth. You start tiptoeing around emotions. You filter your tone. You rehearse every sentence in your head, just in case they twist it again. You don't feel safe, not just with them, but with you. That's not overreacting. That's relationship trauma. Your body starts to believe that silence is safer than honesty. Avoiding conflict is more important than expressing pain. Numbing is better than being accused of drama. Sound familiar? If you've ever gone quiet just to avoid a fight, drop a in the comments. You're not alone. And here's what most people don't talk about. Gaslighting doesn't just make you doubt them, it makes you doubt yourself. You start to question your memory, your needs, your instincts, your reality. And when you're trapped in that spiral, anxiety becomes the new normal. You're not just upset. You're dysregulated. That's where emotional regulation skills come in, not as a fix, but as a reclaiming. Regulation is not suppression. It's not pretending to be calm. It's knowing how to pause before reacting, ground before spiraling, feel without drowning. If your body still panics at silence, if your chest still tightens when someone says, "Can we talk?" You're not broken. You're over-adapted to unpredictability. And that's what we heal next. There are tools now. Gentle ones. Online therapy platforms that specialize in anxiety treatment. Coaches who understand narcissistic abuse recovery, not just generically, but specifically. You don't have to stay stuck in the loop. Coming up next, I'll share the moment that changed everything for me. The first time I said no, and didn't apologize for it. It was small. But it broke the spell. Comment no more apologizing if you're staying for that part. It wasn't dramatic. There was no yelling. No chair thrown, no storming out. Just a pause. A deep breath. And then I said, no. That's not okay with me. The silence after that moment felt louder than any argument we'd ever had. Because for the first time I wasn't negotiating my boundary. I wasn't wrapping it in apology. I wasn't waiting for permission to hold it. I just held it. And it was terrifying. Not because of how they reacted, but because of how my own body did. I felt my chest tighten. My hands shook. My mind spiraled. You're being mean. You're making them feel rejected. You could have said it softer. But here's what I realized, that reaction wasn't from this moment. It was from years of being taught that no equals conflict. That having needs equals being too much. That discomfort equals danger. That's what gaslighting does. That's what relationship trauma plants inside you. And saying no was the first act of reclaiming my nervous system. That was the beginning of learning emotional regulation skills. Not to stay calm for them, but to stay connected to me. You don't need to make grand announcements to start healing. You just need one clear choice, made from self-trust, not self-blame. And you don't have to do it alone. That's what I didn't know back then. I thought I had to figure this out in my journal, by myself, crying in secret. I thought I was weak if I asked for help. I thought needing someone made me dependent. But reaching out wasn't the weakness. It was the exit point from a life I didn't choose. When I found my first narcissistic abuse recovery coach, they didn't say, just move on. They didn't ask, why did you stay? They asked, how did you survive for that long? What did you sacrifice to stay? What are you finally ready to feel now, without being punished for it? That's when therapy made sense again. Not as a diagnosis, but as a sanctuary. Today, there are online therapy platforms designed exactly for this kind of pain. For this kind of unraveling. You don't need to be in crisis to begin. You don't need a label. You just need a pause, a place where your voice doesn't echo back as guilt. If that no is still stuck in your throat. If the idea of setting boundaries makes your palms sweat. You're not behind. You're just unlearning something you were never meant to carry. And if you're still whispering your truth, that's okay. You won't whisper forever. Next, we'll talk about what happens when you begin rebuilding, not just your boundaries, but your identity. What it feels like to re-enter your life without the fear of being too much. Stay for that part, because that's where your story starts sounding like yours again. Drop I'm allowed in the comments if you're ready to take up space. Without shrinking for someone else's comfort. Healing isn't a goal. It's a relationship with yourself. And like any relationship that's been through trauma, it takes patience, practice, protection. Here's what I learned after the first no. After the breakdown, after the leaving, after the silence. Healing doesn't happen in your head. It happens in your nervous system. And your nervous system doesn't speak logic. It speaks safety. So your job is not to explain everything. It's to rebuild safety, from the inside out. Here are the 3 tools I wish I'd had earlier. Not to fix me, but to meet myself. 1. Emotional regulation skills. This is the real work. Learning how to feel, without self-abandoning. Things that helped me. Grounding, putting feet flat on the floor, naming what I see. Box breathing, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. Journaling, not what I think, but what I feel and where I feel it. This isn't self-help fluff. It's retraining your internal safety system. If this resonates, comment regulation below. I'd love to share more tools. 2. Mental health isn't a DIY project. You weren't meant to carry this alone. That's why support exists, not to rescue you, but to witness you back into yourself. When I found my first session on an online therapy platform, I was terrified. What if I said too much? What if they minimized it? But they didn't. They named it. And that's when I stopped minimizing it too. Many survivors start with anxiety online treatment, not because they're broken, but because anxiety is what happens when you've lived too long in survival mode. You don't need to earn support. You just need to start somewhere. 3. Create a new normal that doesn't feel like walking on glass. For me, it looked like saying I'm tired without explaining. Letting a call go to voicemail, and not apologizing for it. Listening to music without lyrics, to feel my emotions without stories. Saying I don't want to talk right now, and not needing a reason. This is the work no one sees. But it's the work that frees you. And if you're not sure how to begin, start with this sentence. What if I'm not too much? What if I'm just finally full of myself again, in the best way? Next, I'll close with one truth that still brings me back. Especially on days when I feel like slipping into silence again. Stay for this last part, not because it will fix everything, but because sometimes, one sentence can hold you when nothing else can. Comment permission if you're ready to stop asking for it. Maybe no one ever told you this. But you were never too much. You were just unfiltered in a world that needed you muted. You weren't irrational. You were deeply in tune. You weren't broken. You were surviving. And the truth is, they didn't shame you because you were wrong. They shamed you because you remembered who you were, too soon, too clearly. That scared them. So here's what I want you to know. Emotional clarity is not arrogance. Regulation is not weakness. And wanting to feel safe is not being needy. It's being human. And after what you've been through, you deserve to be human without apology. If that starts with therapy, take the first step. If it starts with writing your feelings in a journal you hide in your drawer, do that. If it starts with talking to someone who actually gets it, find a narcissistic abuse recovery coach. Whatever it is, let it be soft. Let it be yours. Let it begin. Because you don't have to decode them anymore. You just need to trust your own clarity. If this video held something real for you, comment clarity below. Not for me. For you, so you can come back and remind yourself that you knew. And if you're ready to go deeper, therapy, coaching, or just tools for emotional regulation, you'll find everything you need in the description. Quiet, private, no pressure. You don't need to get louder. You just need to get clear.